Success! Oh, hi. Glad you're here. I'm glad to be with you. Today I'm going to talk about the most impactful films on my life that were released in 2007. Shall we? Battle for Terra. Battle for Terra. Underrated film. A lot of people haven't heard of. It was kind of a big deal when it came out. Pretty good movie. Oh, yeah. Let me tell you a little story about this. I'm going to mention Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And the reason I'm going to mention this movie is because I will never forget the moment being in that theater where I went from a huge fan of the franchise to not a fan. The first Pirates movie, perfect. Amazing film. Absolutely fantastic. The second one, great film. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Loved the cliffhanger. Especially with the, spoiler alert, return of Barbossa. And then the third one, I saw it with my wife and I think she loved it, but I checked out the second that voodoo witch lady turned giant and the movie turned into like the ending of the original animated Little Mermaid. Ooh, I wonder how that's going to go in the new live action one. But yeah, that third Pirates movie, the ending specifically, is when it jumped the shark, literally. And I was like, this is dumb. And every Pirates movie since then has been either meh to not good for me. So it impacted me how much I turned my opinion on that franchise at that moment in that theater in real time. Surf's Up, the animated film about penguins surfing with Jeff Bridges. I'm going to mention that film because my son's mother was a big fan of penguins and she convinced me to watch it one time when he was like a baby, I think. But I have to mention it. Ghost Rider. The first Ghost Rider starring Nicolas Cage. I liked that movie. Thought it was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. Underrated. Sequel, not terrible, but not great. But the first one, I think the first one's pretty solid. Yeah. Water Horse. No, what is it? The Water Horse or The Legend of the Water Horse or something like that? I haven't seen it. But I remember seeing the trailer for it 1,000,000 times because it was on every single DVD that my wife and I would buy that year. And I have vivid memories of the little water horse in the bathtub. So I've got core memories rattling around in my head of a movie I'd never seen. That'll happen. I've mentioned stuff like that before in past videos. Next, starring Nicolas Cage. I don't remember. I remember it being something like him having visions of the future and then codes and decipher and I don't know. I thought maybe it was connected to my whole 311 thing or something like that. When it has to do with numbers haunting someone or someone being obsessed with numbers, I can relate. Hitman. Yeah, Hitman. The one starring Timothy Olyphant. Why? Because it's Timothy Olyphant. He looked good in that movie, too. Weird how all of a sudden... Anyway. So yeah, I'll mention it. It's not great. I don't love it, but I like it. Mainly because of Timothy Olyphant, whose birthday is the same as my son's birthday. Yeah. Speaking of Timothy Olyphant, Live Free or Die Hard. I am a fan of all 5. That's right. I am a fan of all 5 Die Hard films, including and especially Live Free or Die Hard. I love that movie, and I'll give you some random examples why. Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Justin Long is terrific in that film, and I think his chemistry with Bruce Willis, hilarious, because they wanted to kind of mimic the whole thing, from the third one, but I think Live Free or Die Hard is a fantastic movie, especially like that freeway scene, and then in the tunnel, I love that movie. I think it's fantastic. And Timothy Olyphant as the bad guy, oh, what an amazing performance. Right up there with all the other bad guys in the Die Hard franchise. Except for the fifth one has the weakest bad guy, I think. And, but yeah, Timothy Olyphant, oh, what a treasure. I was a fan of his for so long. All the way from Scream 2. So to see him now in things like Star Wars and everything, you know, The Office, like Timothy Olyphant, he's fantastic. So I enjoyed Live Free or Die Hard. I love that movie. Superbad. Superbad, I'm just gonna mention, it's a classic comedy. We loved it when it came out. It's everyone knows Superbad, McLovin and all that, yada yada yada. But the biggest impact Superbad had on me was it is the reason why when I refer to Star Wars Episode 2, I call it Attack of the Clowns. Bill Hader. That's like my favorite line in that whole movie is when he's going, oh, you're gonna Attack of the Clowns? Attack of the Clowns? Bill Hader is another national treasure, who then ended up being part of BB-8's voice in the sequel trilogy. Huh? Oh, Stardust. Stardust is a fantastic film. I love that film. What is it? Claire Danes and Michelle Pfeiffer, and it's just a wonderful, beautiful, original fantasy film about a falling star, a shooting star that fell, whatever, and witches that want to eat the star or something so they can live forever. But it's a great film, and another underrated gem that had a big impact on me, and I love that movie. Another one I haven't seen in over a decade. I need to watch that. So yeah, Stardust. I remember being played quite frequently in my wife and I's house as we watched it over and over because it's a great movie. Great movie. They don't make them like that anymore. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Sometimes I'll call that movie The Assassination of Jesse James. Sometimes I'll refer to it as Jesse James, but I do prefer to call it The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Because that's an amazing title. I don't care how long it is. That's one of my favorite titles of all time. And it's unfortunate for someone like me who's not a history buff, who had no idea of anything historical, that yes, the title spoils the movie, kind of, but the movie's about the whys, the hows. But that movie, that's not just a movie that had an impact on me then. That is one of my, if not one of my favorite Westerns of all time. One of my favorite Brad Pitt performances of all time. That movie is stunning, phenomenal. The cinematography, the directing. That director, I recently saw his other film with Brad Pitt, Killing Them Softly. Brilliant. And then he just did Blonde. Yeah, you know that movie that everyone talked trash about and had stupid reasons for it? Blonde is like one of the best movies that came out that year. Blonde absolutely blew me away. I've never seen anything like that. Blonde is a masterpiece from beginning to end. By the same director, and I can't believe people crap on that movie. It's like that's filmmaking at its best, doing things that have never been done with film and experimenting, and that's what this director does. So The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is, in my opinion, one of the greatest movies of all time. Like within minutes, you get the feeling that it's so special. Oh, and Sam Rockwell. Hello. God. What an amazing film. Here's a little story. Harry Potter 5. What was it? Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix? So as I've said in previous videos, it was Prisoner of Azkaban was the first one I saw in theaters with my, at the time, fiance or something? Girlfriend? Anyway. And then Goblet of Fire I saw with her as we were, engaged, probably right after we got married. And Goblet of Fire is what made me a huge Harry Potter fan. Just, oh my god, I love Harry Potter. So I was so excited after The Return of Voldemort to see the follow-up. But I can't watch Order of the Phoenix, especially the beginning, without being haunted by this memory. My wife and I went to the mall. We bought our tickets beforehand, like a couple hours beforehand. And we were hanging out doing this and that. Before it was time for the movie, we got into an argument. I can't remember what the argument was about or how it started. All I know is it wasn't being resolved, and she was very upset. Hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned. And we got into the theater as the argument persisted, and I remember just before the movie started, she left. And yes, in retrospect, what you're supposed to do is follow them, pursue them, do anything you can to resolve the situation. But I was like, I want to watch Harry Potter. So I stayed while she left. We lived like right across the street from the mall, so she just went home. Waste of a ticket, waste of money. She didn't see the film. And I stayed. Because that's how much of a movie buff I am. Yeah, gee, who'd have thunk it? Here I am making over 40 videos about movies I've seen. So yeah, I preferred to stay and watch the movie, but I'll never forget the beginning, you know, at the playground and whatnot with the Dementors. I couldn't get it out of my head, the fact that, oh no, what do I do? She left. She's going to be so mad. Should I leave? And I stuck around and I watched the movie, but that experience tainted my enjoyment of the film and my viewing experience. It's not one of my favorites. I've appreciated the ending a lot more than I used to in recent memory, but like I said, I can never think of that film or watch that film without thinking of that incident. We eventually resolved it, but that could have been the beginning of the end of our relationship. Who knows? Anyway. Speaking of westerns, 3:10 to Yuma is another one of my favorite westerns of all time. Fantastic film. Gonna Hang Me in the Morning, which featured Keamy from Lost. I'm not a big fan of Russell Crowe. This is one of those things where I like Russell Crowe. Christian Bale is fantastic in it. I love the story. I love the action. I love the ending. 3:10 to Yuma, fantastic film. I believe I didn't see it till after it came out on DVD, but 3:10 to Yuma, love it. Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Yes, I'm going to mention that, and here's why. I discussed the first Alien vs. Predator and how I thought that was pretty good. I like the first Alien vs. Predator for what it is. I can appreciate that movie, even though the ending's a little weird. But Alien vs. Predator Requiem is not just one of the... I would say it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but I can't, because I've never seen that movie. I've watched it a few times, but I've never seen it because the lighting in that film is atrocious. 90% of that movie is pitch black. You can't see nothing, which is unfortunate when you have the Predator-Alien hybrid thing, which was a great idea, poorly executed in the sequel. I do appreciate and love the ending. I love how it takes place here in Colorado. I love how you know, they teased more in the end credit. But I'll always appreciate a movie that very much like, spoiler alert, like Return of the Living Dead, where it ends with the government just bombing the city and everyone dies. Cool. But overall, that movie's too dark. Like, literally, I can't see anything in that movie, and it's garbage. It had an impact on me. Speaking of impact, The Number 23 is a film, not just a number. But it stars Jim Carrey, and it's about a guy going insane because he's being haunted by the number 23. I can relate to that movie so much, especially at the time, because I have a similar experience with the number 311, which is funny because you can see a 2-digit number everywhere easily. 3 digits? That's a little more difficult, and people think that I would look for it. No, it finds me every single day. I have been haunted by the number 311 for 23 years. I see it every single day, at least once, for 23 years. Including once when I went to a movie. Did I mention it before? I might have on a past video. It was My Bloody Valentine, and I always wanted to see a movie by myself, like alone in a theater, you know, before I can do that whenever I want as a manager, but I find that happened, and I went to buy my tickets, and the people in front of me were buying their tickets, and the ticket taker said, that'll be Theater 3 down that hall. And then I bought my ticket, and the ticket taker said, that'll be Theater 11 down that hall. And I'm like, oh, 311, and I was alone in that theater. But anyway, that's just an example. But I'm haunted by the number 311, and the movie number 23 is about a guy obsessing over why. Why is this number showing up? And he's trying to figure it out, and he goes insane, and I can relate. Jim Carrey, by the way, is very underrated. He can do... Jim Carrey is a fantastic, amazing dramatic actor. Period. The end. He's an amazing actor, period. If you haven't seen Kidding, the TV show, what was it, Showtime or something like that? That's a masterpiece. That is not just one of the greatest television shows I've ever seen in my life, one of the greatest pieces of entertainment I've ever seen in my life. Kidding, starring Jim Carrey. What a unique... I mean, obviously, it's the guy who did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Anyway, we're getting off track. Spider-Man 3. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Spider-Man 3, and not ironically. I'm going to talk about it because I hated the first one. Yeah, I hated the first one. I thought the second one was okay. Yeah, that's right. I don't love the second one. But the third one, I'm the guy who loves the third one. Of the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, the third one is my favorite. I actually think Topher Grace was amazing as Venom. I love Sandman. I loved seeing all of these villains in one deal. Oh, and James Franco's arc turning into a Hobgoblin. I love Spider-Man 3. I think I just said this. Of the original trilogy, it's my favorite. It's the only one I can say I really like. Like I said, the second one, meh. First one, don't like that one at all. So, I'm the one person who thinks that Spider-Man 3 is the best of that trilogy. And that I mentioned Topher Grace. Yes, he wouldn't have been my first choice to cast Venom. And he wouldn't... I don't think he was perfect in the role. But there's a moment when his little mask comes off and near the end, he's got Gwen in the car and he's threatening her because he's using her as bait. Gwen. I said Gwen. What's her name? Mary Jane. Mary Jane in the car, and he's using her as bait to get Spider-Man there. And she's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And he's like... He has this moment where he says, I'm going to take everything from him. Just like... Maybe he's talking to him, but he has this moment, just like you did to me. He has this sincere moment of brilliant acting that breaks my heart every time, which is perfect villain motivation. Yes, good people do bad things, and good people turn into bad people because of what has happened to them. And then they get desperate and they just want justice and revenge. It's a very human thing, and that moment to me is just like you took everything from me. It's brilliant acting, and I so connect with that character, and I can understand. Sometimes our motivations are just based on pain. Anger comes from pain, period. There is no anger without pain. And when you are betrayed and everything is taken from you unjustly, all you want is vigilante justice when no one else will step in. A little too heavy and serious for Spider-Man 3, but... Transformers. I'm going to mention the first Transformer, the first Transformers film. Michael Bay. Shia LaBeouf. Love Shia LaBeouf. Megan Fox, before she became what she is today. For the record, how come women still think that plastic surgery is a good idea? Especially on their face? Do they really think they look better? Because 9 times out of 10, they look terrible. Natural beauty will always trump fake beauty. Plus, fake boobies taste funny. Anyway, I hate when a beautiful woman turns her face ugly intentionally. Drives me insane. But back to idea. Sorry for being honest. But the original Transformers film blew us all away. Blew my mind. I absolutely loved it. We'd never seen anything like it. Those visual effects, the transforming. Like, It's the only good Transformers film. I mean, the second one's okay, the third one, meh. But after that, they're just garbage. But that first one really is something special, like a time capsule. Like it's worth, you know, its historic value. I think the first one is good. I'm going to mention Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. I really liked the first Fantastic Four movie. And I really like Rise of the Silver Surfer. Yeah. Do I wish Galactus was done differently and not just a big cloud? Absolutely. But I think the addition of Silver Surfer and its visual effects and the performance by Lawrence Fishburne is fantastic. But the reason Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer was such a big impact on me is that it came out on June 15th, which was my birthday. And movies only come out, I've said this before, movies only come out either, a Wednesday or a Friday, and sometimes you get like the Thursday night premieres. So it's only every so often that a movie's going to fall on your birthday, and especially a movie that you want to see. Imagine if your birthday's on leap year. If your birthday's on leap year and a movie ever comes out on your birthday and you want to see it, that's probably a once in a lifetime opportunity. Anyway, so I was like, sweet, this movie comes out on my birthday. I'm going to go see it on my birthday. And I did, with my wife. We saw Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer on my birthday. We enjoyed it for what it was. That was a memorable birthday. What would that have been? My 24th birthday. Wow. So my brain wasn't even fully developed yet. That's 25. Which is why you can't rent a car till you're 25, because once your brain's fully developed at the age of 25, you can make quick decisions easier. It's an insurance thing. Anyway, that's about it, except for last but not least. The number one most impactful film that came out in 2007 was Grindhouse, as in Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror and Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. Double feature. Grindhouse. It took, years for them to finally release a Blu-ray where they packed it as a double feature and you could see everything that we saw in the theaters. Because initially, when they released these films on physical media, they released them separately and they didn't include the trailers that we saw in the theater. My wife and I went to see Grindhouse in that theater. And yes, it was at least 4-hour experience. And it was amazing. We didn't leave the theater. I don't have to go, pee and go to this and that. I can sit in a theater for 4 hours because we had the fake trailers at the beginning, including Machete, which we all know they eventually turned into its own movie, using every single thing that was actually in that fake trailer. Brilliant. And then in the middle, between the films, because they had Planet Terror first, which I love that movie. Planet Terror is a perfect movie. I think that Rodriguez did a perfect Grindhouse film, but then Tarantino did a Tarantino film Grindhouse style. But Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror is intentionally over the top and campy and ridiculous, but in a perfect fun way. You got Jeff Fahey, you've got Michael Biehn, Rose McGowan, of course, with her gun leg. Thanos, Brolin, Josh Brolin, James Brolin, you know what I mean. What an amazing film. I could watch Planet Terror every day anyway, so we saw that, and then in the middle we got more fake trailers, one by Quentin Tarantino, one by Eli Roth called Thanksgiving, which he just announced this year he's making. So we have now our second subject matter, but multiple films, because there's now 2 Machete films. Oh, man, I wish we could have gotten that third one. But now we're getting Thanksgiving as a film, and I hope every single thing from that trailer, including Michael Biehn, is in this movie, but I can't wait. And then we also had a trailer. My favorite of all the fake trailers is what's his name? Who did Scott Pilgrim versus the World? his name is escaping me right now. Dang it. You know, Baby Driver, and he was gonna do the first Ant-Man before he got fired. Edgar Wright? Aha! Is that right? I don't know, whatever his name is. My favorite of the trailers, of the fake trailers, is Don't. It's hilarious. If you are thinking of opening this door, don't. So we had an amazing experience, and then we got to see Death Proof, an amazing Tarantino film. Like, he took it seriously, and it's a masterpiece. He just threw in a little campy. But the thing is, on the initial DVD separate release of Death Proof, they added in, when you're in the theater, there's a missing reel. They're setting up this dance that she's going to do for him. And once we finally get to the dance, it goes, bloop, missing reel, and cuts the whole dance. And it's hilarious and perfectly placed. But when they released it on physical media by itself, they include that dance. There's no missing reel. You get to see the dance. Sure, whatever. I don't care. I prefer the movie the way it was originally with the missing reel because I think it adds more cleverness and humor and cheeky to the grindhouse-ness of the film. So that version I now have because I have the Blu-ray of the Grindhouse double feature. So if you're interested in either of these movies, I highly recommend the actual Grindhouse double feature, where you're going to get all the fake trailers and you're going to get the original missing reel from Death Proof, and then you got Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Rosario Dawson, who are now co-starring together in Star Wars. Anyway, so Grindhouse was the biggest impact because that is the first, last, only time I've been able to see such an event like that, a double feature, 4 hours long, campy, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm very thankful and blessed that I got to see Grindhouse in theaters in 2007. And my wife and I had a blast. So I highly recommend both of those as one. To me, it's not Planet Terror or Death Proof or it's Grindhouse. They belong as a double feature. Yeah. Man, I wish we could get some more stuff like that. Like people would continue, like Grindhouse, midnight show, stuff like that. Anyway. Okie dokie. Kurt Russell, yeah. And then he's like, yeah. Man, what an ending. Oh, and Zoe Bell, who was in Lost. She's a great stunt woman, and she's fantastic in that film. I'm just going to keep going on. I already said okie dokie, so okie dokie.